Hey, what's going on, everyone? RAMCCALL here. So, welcome to the journey to $1 million in monthly revenue. And for the month of December of 2022, I made roughly $689.51, and that's for the entire portfolio. And that is down from last month of about $777.70. But that being said, the page views actually increased by about 15%. And so I would attribute that decrease in revenue to be lower overall RPMs for the month of December. And so just pulling up the portfolio revenue so you guys can see it. As you can see, so starting out the year last January, basically was at about like $100 a month. And then as it hit the warmer months all the way up until like July and August, it almost capped out at about $5,000. And then due to seasonality and website number one and the website number two getting hit by an update, the page views and revenue obviously has been on a decline since then. But as of like this month, I believe, it looks to be recovering. So going forward into the month of January 2023, and really the whole year of 2023, I would hope that as I start to add more websites to the overall portfolio, that things will start to be diversified and the page views and revenue will start to increase and be a lot more steadier than just relying on two more websites. And so right here, you can kind of see the page views. Obviously it capped out again August of this past year of 2022 at about like 200,000 roughly. And then they declined. I think they hit rock bottom at about like 38,000 page views in November. But like I just said, in December, they had started to increase by about 15% to about like 44,000. And so hopefully that trend will continue. So kind of going right into it, the website one analytics, you can see it's a rather seasonal site. It kind of caps out every week on the weekends, like on Saturday and Sunday. And then also on any kind of holiday like Christmas or New Year's, it'll kind of peak out again, or you can see like a more drastic increase in page views. And again, that's just due to the topic and the seasonality to it. And one little thing that I've been kind of touching on in this video and maybe like the last video is the practice of sort of like diving a little bit deeper into the analytics, if you will, for each of these websites. And you can do that by going into the Google Analytics. And then and this kind of just depends on, how you structure your articles and the titles and stuff and the URL slugs. But what you can do is if like you have the main category like word in the URL, then what you can do is go into Google Analytics and just type it in. And then what you can do is start to build like a spreadsheet and basically determine, how many page views are you getting on a per post basis as well as a revenue basis, revenue per post basis and page view per post basis. And so basically what this allows you to do is get real concrete data historically and like currently every month. And it will allow you to kind of determine which areas or categories or topics are performing the best on a month-to-month basis for each of these different types of representations. So if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you see that light baby blue. Ever since it got on the Mediavine, I was able to start tracking the revenue per post, and right off the bat, you can see it's been pretty consistent even throughout the seasonality and these Google updates. And even on a page view per post basis as well, it still seems to be holding up pretty well, comparatively speaking to all the other categories. So that can just be, again, a way of determining, what's working and what's not working for a website. And then if you were to try and go all in, then you could, start adding a lot more content around that area. And so likewise for website one, the revenue, it hit like $3,400, I believe. And it capped out in July. And then ever since then, it's been on somewhat of a decline, but it doesn't look too drastic except for like July to August. But I would attribute this to mainly be like from something like seasonality. And we'll see what happens come July of 2023. But This one still seems to be kind of somewhat like a locomotive, if you will, for page views and revenue. It does have the most amount of articles published on it at about 966 articles, but I haven't really touched this since probably October, and it continues to spit out $400 to $500 a month. And then for website 2, so this one has about 672 articles, and I actually kind of like front loaded about like 300 or so articles onto this thing, and then it basically was able to get onto Mediavine without me doing anything. And so I believe I got this one on Mediavine middle of like June or July of 2022, and then it really started to pick up, and so I basically doubled the article count to about 672 articles. But then like right as I did that, the page views basically capped out at about like 115,000 in August, and then it basically like got like a 90% drop in traffic since then. But that being said, in the month of December, it actually started to grow again by about 11%, which is pretty optimistic. So hopefully this one will continue to rise and surpass where it was back in August. And yeah, so likewise the revenue, it almost hit about $2,500 in August, and then obviously, you know, it got slammed by some of these Google updates, and then it pretty much bottomed out in November at about $193, and you know, that's basically it. And then likewise the categories, so kind of following the same principle as website 1, you can really sort of off the bat take a representation of all your different categories or areas you're covering, and then really see, you know, what's working, what's not working. And so in the case of this one, both the revenue per post and page view per post are sending some pretty clear signs that that yellow category is performing pretty well overall, and especially within these past couple of months. And so that could be, you know, again, like a way of determining like, okay, maybe Google sees you as an authority on this, or for whatever reason, these are just performing a lot better than all the other categories. And then depending on your goals, whether it be page views or revenue, in my case, it's both, but leaning more towards the revenue aspect, you know, you can start to adjust accordingly and start to dive a little bit deeper into each of those categories that are performing well, despite all these updates. And so I also have 3 or 4 more websites that I have been sort of percolating over the past year. And so website 3 is one that I just have about 150 articles on, and it is basically just kind of slowly but surely kind of going up every month. Not like drastic 200% increases, but regardless, you know, I haven't really touched this website since about September, October timeframe. And since then, it's gone from like 4,000 to like over 10,000 page views. So I'm just going to let this one sit and then continue to focus on newer websites and continue to build the portfolio that way. And I also believe that that will give you better diversification, because you're not really investing as much up front in each of these projects. And then it will also allow you to kind of touch different markets or areas online through different websites, and start to reap the benefits of like new websites kind of like increasing like exponentially. And so basically what my strategy from this point on will be is like build a website up to about like 150 articles, just let it sit and grow over the next year or so, or like a few months. And then once it hits 150 articles, move on to the next one and just keep repeating that process. And like over time, a lot of these websites, you know, you don't really have a lot of money invested in each one, but overall you do. But in doing so, you can really start to reap the benefits of like exponential growth, because once you create a website, it basically gets a new slate, in my opinion, from Google, and you just slap a couple articles on it and just let it grow and just kind of take advantage of like economies of scale, if you will, and like the unlimited potential of the internet. And once you start to really scale out your business, then hopefully, you know, it'll start to add up to a lot of page views and revenue per month, and you're not really reliant on 1 or 2 monster websites. And so this one, website 4, this one is a very brandable domain name, and it is in a very broad area, and I only have about 7 articles on it, and I haven't really touched this website in over a year, but it basically averages out at about like 1 to 200 page views per month. But I think going forward in the year of 2023, again, I'm going to try and bump this one up to about 150 articles and just let it sit, and then move on to the next one. And so website 5, I created this one back in, I believe, August or September. I front loaded about 22 articles onto it, and it's sitting at about basically 60 articles right now, which have been added in the month of December. But this one is already showing pretty clear signs of growth. I believe it last month, it was growing at like 132%, and then in December of 2022, it basically grew at about 243%. And so I actually just front loaded another like 60 articles or so. So it's pretty close now to like the 150 article mark, or it should be, hopefully by the end of January of 2023. And I would expect this one to be growing quite a bit. And then as far as like website 6, so this is like one of the other websites I just started. This one has about 14 articles, and I started it at the same time as website 5. And this one is actually showing some pretty good signs of growth as well. It's already at about like 127 page views for the month of December, and it's in another very broad area with a lot of revenue and ad potential, I believe. But we'll just wait to see what happens. And then kind of a recap on things. So for the year of 2022, I've gone from about, basically 800 blog posts to about over 800 or 1,868 blog posts. And basically, I've, more than doubled the article count throughout the year. The revenue started to increase pretty well for the first half of the year, and then due to these updates and seasonality and whatnot, things kind of got thrown for a loop. But I'm still pretty optimistic, because one of the things that I was able to calculate was the return on investment on a yearly basis. And a lot of people will say, like, if you aren't or like, I don't really think they say, but they kind of implied that if you're not making like $5-7 per post on a revenue per post basis, then the project is basically a failure. And I just don't really believe in that, because what other kind of investment, particularly nowadays, can you put money into and still reap 15, 17, 40, 73% returns for very little effort, in my opinion? And the operating expenses on these websites are pretty minimal. Like, you can get away with running a website for free if you know what you're doing. And so, like, as an example, I haven't touched website 1 or 2 for like a couple months, and they continue to spit out like $600 a month. I mean, compound that over like 20 years, that's a pretty substantial amount of money. And so again, to recap, I don't think that these websites are a failure at all. And matter of fact, I think it's just getting started. And for those of you out there that may try to compare yourself to these bigger publishers that are making like 100, 200K a month, those people are frankly outliers, in my opinion. And that still doesn't even speak to the potential on a lot of these other publishers that are making like millions and millions of dollars per month online. And so you take all that into account, the amount of like earning potential, and then the amount of like upfront investment and operating costs for these websites. There's frankly not a better business model than this. And so you can kind of compare that to like real estate and other types of commodities. And, you always basically are having to like deal with real like properties and like tenants and stuff like that, whether that be retail or commercial. And still, like, you're not really reaping that much of a return on investment. Maybe you are, but you're having to expend quite a bit of money to be able to repair things and basically manage people. But you basically front load them with like 100, 200 articles, spend like, certainly less than $10,000 on it, and then you just let it sit, and then before you know it, it's already reaping like a 20% return on a yearly basis. So again, don't let these updates and like lower revenue each month like discourage you if you're kind of out there and wondering like, is this even worth it? Definitely worth it. Just keep at it. A lot of people will say, just if you're consistent enough and hardworking and you just never give up, then you're going to succeed. And so hopefully these videos kind of serve as like inspiration to you as well. But anyways, guys, I'll get off my little tangent. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And as always, I really appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. See ya.